Xuanling Mountain was the most grand and towering peak on Xuanling Island, its height reaching thousands of feet, piercing the clouds. Mist swirled around the mountain's midsection, obscuring the view of anyone attempting to gaze upward. At the foot of Xuanling Mountain, people were gradually emerging from the surrounding forests, gathering in increasing numbers. Their eyes were fervently fixed on the peak. It was said that the vital, profound spirit fruit would appear at the summit. Roar. As more powerful individuals arrived at the mountain's base, faint but fierce roars echoed from the top of Xuanling Mountain. The roars carried a discernible warning. Clearly, the powerful demonic beasts residing on the mountain had sensed the uninvited guests. Beasts of this strength possessed considerable intelligence, and they knew exactly why these people had come. However, the warning roars were largely ignored by those gathered. Though everyone was aware of the danger posed by the demonic beasts on Xuanling Mountain, the allure of the vital, profound spirit fruit far outweighed any potential risks. Suddenly, the rumble of wheels could be heard, as a caravan emerged from the forest, halting at the bustling base of the mountain. The group was sizable, immediately drawing the attention of many. Oh, are those the people from the Gu clan? The one leading them. Isn't that Gu Yan? She's quite the beauty, and I hear she's just a step away from the life mystique stage. She's probably here to seize the vital, profound spirit fruit to break through. Heh, not so easy. Everyone here has their eyes on that fruit. Gu Yan's strong, but she's still a bit lacking. Now, if it were Gu Yuntian, it'd be a different story. Yeah. Hearing the whispers around her, Gu Yan's cold and beautiful face remained unchanged. Her gaze slowly swept across the crowd, her eyebrows furrowing slightly. It seemed that many powerful figures had gathered here, all aiming for the vital, profound spirit fruit. I wonder how Lin Dong is doing. Her eyes shifted toward a nearby carriage. Inside, there was no sound. Ever since Lin Dong had retreated to heal from his injuries, there had been no news. If not for Gu Yan still sensing his presence, she might have thought he had taken the Xuanling pill and fled. Gu Yanjia, a young member of the Gu clan, suddenly spoke, his face looking uneasy as he stared into the distance. Gu Yan turned to follow his gaze. Her eyes grew cold as she saw a group approaching. Leading them was a man in blue robes, somewhat handsome, but the sinister glint in his eyes spoiled his looks. It's Lu Jian, that loathsome guy. The Gu clan youth frowned in distaste. They all knew Lu Jian well. He was the young master of Swordheart Island. Once, he had pursued Gu Yan, but his petty nature couldn't handle rejection. After being turned down several times, he grew resentful, pushing Swordheart Island to side with the Wei clan, longtime rivals of the Gu clan. I didn't expect Swordheart Island to show up here. Gu Yan's brows knitted together. If they were here, it likely meant they'd be siding with the Wei clan, adding more pressure on the Gu clan. Around them, many onlookers watched the scene unfold with amusement, then shifted their gaze up the slope. There, another large group was gathered, led by none other than Wei Song, whom they had seen a few days earlier. At this moment, Wei Song wore a faint smile, watching the approaching Lu Jian with interest. Clearly, Lu Jian's boldness in confronting the Gu clan was bolstered by the support of the Wei clan. Brother Su, you mentioned there might be a hidden expert within the Gu clan's caravan? Wei Song turned his head slightly toward a man in black robes beside him. We fought briefly that night. Their strength was indeed not bad, the man replied in a cold tone. But if it comes to a fight, I'm confident I can kill him. Hee, Brother Su, as an immortal talisman master, you're one of the top talents among the younger generation in the Celestial Windsea region. These small fries are no match for you, Wei Song chuckled. Our Wei clan's success in the upcoming martial gathering will likely depend on you and your senior brother. The black-robed man smiled faintly. Gu Yuntian of the Gu clan is indeed formidable. If we fight, even I may struggle to defeat him. But once my senior brother makes his move, Gu Yuntian might escape with his life, but he'll be gravely injured and unable to attend the martial gathering. Without him, the younger generation of the Gu clan won't stand a chance. Wei Song laughed out loud, his gaze shifting to Lu Jian as he neared the Gu clan's caravan. In that case, I'll hold Gu Yan and her people here. Once we get our hands on the vital, profound spirit fruit, she won't be a threat to me anymore. And I'm curious to see who's hiding in that caravan, daring to interfere with the Wei clan's plans. His expression darkened as he spoke, a malicious glint flashing in his eyes. As Wei Song and the black-robed man continued their conversation, Lu Jian's group from Swordheart Island was drawing closer to the Gu clan's caravan, all eyes on them. Heh, little Yin, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to see you here on Xuanling Island as well. Lu Jian smiled warmly, his gaze lingering on Gu Yan's slender, graceful figure. Gu Yin shot a glance at Lu Jian, unable to suppress her disgust. Her eyes were cold, and she didn't even want to acknowledge his presence. Lu Jian's expression turned a bit awkward, clearly not expecting Gu Yin to completely ignore him. Forcing a smile, a hint of darkness flickered in his eyes as he said, I'm just here to give you a friendly reminder. Wei Song has already set his sights on the vital, profound spirit fruit. So, to avoid any unfortunate incidents later, you'd better stay cautious. Hearing the veiled threat in his words, the members of the Gu clan immediately showed displeasure on their faces. Relying on someone else's power like a fox borrowing a tiger's might, do you really think just because you're under the Wei clan's wing, your Swordheart Island can trample on our Gu clan? Guing sneered, her sharp words giving no room for courtesy. You sharp-tongued brat. Lu Jian's eyes flashed coldly, clearly provoked by her words. He stepped forward and struck out with his palm, sending a fierce gust of wind towards Guing. Seeing this, Guing swiftly retreated to avoid the strike. But in doing so, she failed to notice that Lilia was standing right behind her. Bang! Caught off guard by the sudden attack, Lilia hurriedly gathered her primordial energy to defend herself, barely managing to block the blow. The force of the strike exploded, sending Lilia stumbling backward. Several Gu clan members quickly rushed to support her as they noticed her pale face. Their eyes immediately filled with anger. Lilia! Gu Ying's expression changed at the sight, and she glared furiously at Lu Jian. You bastard! Lu Jian, do you really think with the Wei clan here, I wouldn't dare to kill you? Gu Yan's face also flushed with anger. Sensing the killing intent in Gu Yan's voice, Lu Jian's eyes flickered, but he chuckled coldly. If she hadn't insulted me, I wouldn't have acted. You can't blame me for that. He had come here under Wei Song's orders to stir up trouble, so he felt no fear. Gu Yan's face turned icy, and with a grasp of her delicate hand, a long sword radiating cold energy appeared in her grip, her body surging with powerful primordial energy. Heh, Gu Yan, no need to get worked up over such a small matter. Just as Gu Yan was about to make a move, a laugh rang out from the distance, followed by the sound of wind rushing. Wei Song, accompanied by a large group, descended and landed on a nearby tree branch. That carriage. A man in black robes scanned the Gu clan's convoy, his gaze locking onto the carriage where Lin Dong was. Oh! Wei Song raised an eyebrow as a cold glint flashed in his eyes. With a flick of his sleeve, dozens of icy lights shot out, heading straight for the carriage like a storm of arrows. What are you doing? Gu Yan was shocked by Wei Song's actions, finally realizing that he and his men were targeting Lin Dong. Whoosh! The icy lights tore through the air at terrifying speed. Imbued with a fierce force, they slammed into the carriage, riddling it with holes in an instant. No one. Seeing that the carriage remained still and quiet, Wei Song frowned. Watch out. Suddenly, the black-robed man beside him tensed, waving his sleeve as a surge of spiritual energy formed an invisible barrier in front of them. Boom. Just as the barrier solidified, the carriage exploded, sending a violent shockwave outward. The icy lights returned with even greater ferocity, and at the same time, an intense, wild aura erupted from the explosion site. Finally showing yourself? A sinister gleam appeared in Wei Song's eyes as the icy lights shot back toward the barrier, their speed slowing as they sank into it like stones in mud, finally falling powerlessly to the ground. However, the crowd's attention was not on the lights, but on the figure emerging from the wreckage of the carriage, radiating a powerful aura. Lin Dong. Gu Yan and the others were overjoyed to see Lin Dong unharmed. Interrupting someone's training like this, don't you think that's a bit rude? Lin Dong looked up and smiled, his gaze falling on Wei Song standing on the tree branch. Wei Song narrowed his eyes, scrutinizing Lin Dong before frowning slightly. Ninth Nirvana stage? Su, is this the hidden expert you spoke of from the Gu clan convoy? The black-robed man beside him also fixed his gaze on Lin Dong, his eyes scanning every inch of Lin Dong's body before nodding slowly. This kid is not simple. Don't underestimate him. Really? I'm curious to see how formidable a mere ninth Nirvana stage brat can be, Wei Song grinned. Ninth Nirvana stage? He's only reached that level after recovering his strength? The murmurs from the crowd showed that Wei Song wasn't the only one doubtful. Even some Gu clan members were frowning at Lin Dong. They had expected more after hearing Lin Dong speak with such confidence, assuming his strength had recovered to a level close to Gu Yan's. Yet now, it seemed he had just broken through to the ninth Nirvana stage. Could someone at this level stand against an immortal Talisman master? The Gu clan members exchanged doubtful glances. Although they remained silent, their skepticism was clear. Lin Dong's strength didn't match the boldness of his words. That 10,000 profound primordial pills seemed to have been wasted. This guy. Guing bit her lip in frustration, but after experiencing Lin Dong's ruthlessness before, she didn't dare make any further sarcastic remarks. She glanced at Gu Yan and whispered, "Sister Gu Yan." Gu Yan stared at Lin Dong, whose calm face showed no sign of wavering despite the tense situation. After a moment of hesitation, she shook her head. "Let's wait and see. Don't jump to conclusions." Hearing this, Guing could only nod. With the profound primordial pills already used by Lin Dong, they could only hope he would prove himself useful. Standing in the middle of the scene, Lin Dong felt the weight of the many gazes on him, filled with doubt and judgment. But he said nothing, merely sweeping his gaze across the area until it settled on Little Ya, whose face was still pale. His expression immediately darkened. What happened? Little Ya wiped the corner of her mouth, shaking her head timidly. Lu Jian laughed coldly and said, "Where did this ignorant brat come from? This has nothing to do with you. Mind your own business, or you'll regret it." Lu Jian was at the peak of the ninth Nirvana stage, stronger than Lin Dong, which gave him confidence. Moreover, Wei Song was backing him up, so he naturally didn't take Lin Dong seriously. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes, a hint of a smile playing on his lips as he stepped toward Lu Jian. Seeing this, the Gu clan disciples quickly moved aside. They were curious to see how Lin Dong, who seemed to be at the ninth Nirvana stage, would deal with Lu Jian, who had reached its peak. From a short distance away, Wei Song chuckled. "Lu Jian, since someone dares challenge the prestige of Swordheart Island's young master, there's no need to hold back." "Of course," Lu Jian replied, a twisted smile curling on his lips. His fingers formed a sword gesture, and in an instant, a surge of powerful primordial energy shot forth. A massive sword energy, several dozen meters long, tore through the air, slashing straight toward Lin Dong. However, as this fearsome sword energy descended upon him, Lin Dong continued walking forward, extending a hand toward the incoming attack. "Suicidal fool." Lu Jian sneered. Even those at the peak of the ninth Nirvana stage wouldn't dare meet his sword energy barehanded. Lin Dong's actions were nothing short of reckless. Boom. The sword energy struck Lin Dong's outstretched hand, but to everyone's shock, there was no blood or sign of injury. Lin Dong's hand clamped down on the sword energy like a steel vise. Then, with a forceful grip, crack, a crisp sound echoed through the forest as the fierce sword energy shattered in Lin Dong's hand. Impossible. The sneer on Lu Jian's face froze instantly. In a flash, Lin Dong lifted his gaze, coldly locking eyes with Lu Jian, and then surged forward like lightning, leaving only an afterimage in his wake. What speed! Lu Jian's expression shifted, and he quickly retreated, summoning a long sword into his hand. With a swift thrust, piercing sword energy shot forth like blazing arcs. But in the blink of an eye, Lin Dong was upon him. His fist clenched tightly, a brilliant azure light erupted around it, and the faint sound of a dragon's roar filled the air. Boom! Lin Dong's azure dragon light fist took shape, crashing forward with mountain-crushing power. Bang! 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 The sword energy that collided with the fist shattered instantly. Lu Jian's offense crumbled before it could even land. Boom. The azure dragon light fist shot toward Lu Jian with terrifying speed, crashing into his body. The dull sound of impact echoed as Lu Jian's face turned pale. A mouthful of blood sprayed from his mouth as his body was sent hurtling backward like a cannonball. Several Swordheart Island disciples rushed to catch him, but the moment their hands touched his body, the sound of bones cracking filled the air, and they too were thrown aside. Thud, thud. Lu Jian and his companions fell to the ground in a sorry state, their landings sending shivers through the onlookers. Even some of the stronger individuals, who had previously been disinterested, now wore serious expressions as their gazes shifted toward the slim figure in the field. One punch was all it took for Lin Dong to defeat Lu Jian, who was at the peak of the 9th Nirvana stage. Only a handful of people here could accomplish such a feat. What's more, it was clear to anyone watching that Lin Dong had used only physical strength. If he had combined that with primordial energy, his destructive power would have been unimaginable. The Gu clan disciples were stunned, especially Gu Ying, who gulped audibly. No one dared question Lin Dong's strength any longer. A single punch had sent Lu Jian flying. Who could possibly underestimate such power now? Gu Yin sighed quietly, finally relieved. It seemed Lin Dong's earlier bold claims were not without foundation. It appeared they had found themselves a formidable ally. Lin Dong cast a disinterested glance at the defeated Lu Jian before looking toward Wei Song, whose expression had darkened. A grin spread across Lin Dong's face. I've been paid, and I intend to get the job done. With those words, the tension in the air thickened. Wei Song's face hardened as a flicker of malice flashed in his eyes. Gu Yin gripped her sword tightly, stepping to Lin Dong's side as the Gu clan disciples gathered behind them, their gazes locked on the members of the Wei clan, ready to strike at any moment. Wei Song's eyes gleamed coldly, but after a brief pause, he smiled. Bold of you. But I'm afraid some matters are beyond your qualifications and even your capabilities. He clapped his hands softly, his gaze fixed on Lin Dong. My Wei clan has no particular grievance with you. For friends, we are lenient. But for enemies, they may find themselves sleepless with regret. Lin Dong met Wei Song's smile with one of his own. He was now a lone wolf, with nothing to hold him back. Even though the Wei clan was powerful, the Chaos Demon Sea was vast and boundless. There was no way the Wei clan could cover it all. If a fight broke out and he couldn't win, he could always escape, and there would be little the Wei clan could do about it. Let's hope so. Wei Song chuckled, but there was a chilling edge to his smile. He glanced down toward the base of the mountain, noticing that many powerful figures had arrived in response to the news. This gave him some pause. After all, the vital, profound spirit fruit had yet to appear, and it would be unwise to waste energy battling the Gu clan so soon. Let's go. Retracting his gaze, Wei Song turned and waved his hand, signaling the group to leave. Beside him, a man in black robes fixed his gaze on Lin Dong, lifting his head slightly to reveal a pale face. A cold smirk tugged at the corner of his lips as he stretched out his hand, making a grasping motion toward Lin Dong from a distance, before turning to leave. Brother Su, make sure that kid doesn't leave Xuanling Island alive. Wei Song's voice was cold and sinister as he dashed away, his face dark with fury. Heh, I already told you. I'll turn him into a human puppet. The black-robed man chuckled, his laughter eerie, like the cry of a ghost, sending chills down the spine. Wei Song nodded, a flash of malice and cruelty flickering in his eyes. Lin Dong's defiance had clearly enraged him. You've really managed to thoroughly offend Wei Song this time, Gu Yin commented as she watched Wei Song and his group leave. Then, she turned to Lin Dong with a curious look. I accepted your payment, so naturally, I have to take a stand, Lin Dong said with a smile. It was clear that Wei Song wasn't the type to let things slide. Even if Lin Dong didn't provoke him now, the grudge would only deepen when the time came for a confrontation. So there was no point in holding back. Are you fully healed? Gu Yan's eyes scanned Lin Dong, concern in her gaze. Yeah. Lin Dong clenched his fists, feeling the surging power within him. A satisfied smile appeared on his face. Although he had been gravely injured, the benefits he gained were undeniable. Now, if he fought with all his strength, Even someone at the minor completion of the life mystique stage wouldn't be able to gain the upper hand. If he'd had this strength back when he fought Yuan Tsong, things wouldn't have turned out so disastrously. A ninth Nirvana stage warrior with such incredible power. Even I can sense a hint of danger from you. Gu Yan's eyes gleamed with curiosity. It seems what you said about being able to challenge an immortal talisman master wasn't just idle talk. Lin Dong merely smiled in response, not wanting to dwell too much on the subject. His gaze swept toward the foot of the mountain, where his eyes narrowed slightly. There are quite a few powerful people here. Indeed, from the base of the mountain, he could sense the presence of many strong individuals, some of whom were no weaker than Gu Yan herself. Yeah. Gu Yan's usually aloof face showed a trace of seriousness as she glanced at a few spots at the mountain's base, her brows furrowing. See that group to the northwest? Following her gaze, Lin Dong spotted a large group of people. Leading them was a tall man dressed in robes adorned with sea blue clouds. They're from the Haiyun sect. That man leading them is Han Tao, one of the most outstanding young talents from the sect. His strength has also reached the half-step life mystique stage, Gu Yan explained. Lin Dong nodded. Over the past few days, he had learned a lot about the celestial Windsea region. Although the two cave heavens and the five great clans were the most powerful forces here, the Haiyun sect was also a significant power, only slightly weaker than the five great clans in terms of foundation. There's also someone from the southwest, someone troublesome. Lin Dong's gaze shifted to the southwest, where a gray-robed figure sat quietly on a large boulder. He was alone, with no companions around him, but the fact that a solitary warrior had come to compete for the vital, profound spirit fruit suggested he wasn't to be underestimated. Gu Yan's expression turned even more serious as she looked at the gray-robed man. That's Emojan, the one-armed man. He hasn't joined any faction, but he's quite famous in the celestial Windsea region. He's also reached the half-step life mystique stage, and it's said that he once fought a warrior at minor completion of the life mystique stage. Not only did he escape unscathed, but he even injured his opponent. Oh! Lin Dong's eyes lit up with surprise as he glanced at the gray-robed man. Sure enough, one of his sleeves hung empty. Seems like this guy has some tricks up his sleeve, Lin Dong mused to himself. He was no stranger to fighting opponents stronger than himself, and he knew what it took to succeed in such battles. If this man could accomplish such feats, he surely had something hidden up his sleeve. Chaos Demon C. Characters like these would be considered stars among the younger generation in the Eastern Mystery region. But here, they're just considered talented. Lin Dong couldn't help but marvel at the thought. The Celestial Windsea region wasn't even the strongest sea in the Chaos Demon Sea. Yet the powerful figures here were already so formidable. Who knew what kind of monstrous talents were lurking in other areas? As Lin Dong studied the gray-robed man from afar, the latter seemed to sense his gaze. Lin Dong stared directly at the man in gray, his face showing no fear. Though the man's reputation wasn't small, it meant little to Lin Dong. After all, he had injured a strong opponent who had reached minor completion of the life mystique stage and escaped successfully. But Lin Dong, he had actually killed one. There was a significant difference between injuring and killing someone at that level. The man in gray fixed Lin Dong with a sharp gaze, his eyes fierce for a long while. Eventually, the sharpness faded. He took a deep look at Lin Dong before slowly turning away. Gu Yan, observing the confrontation, noticed Lin Dong's calm demeanor and gained even more respect for him. She then spoke again. There are still some troublesome ones over there. Judging by the black dragon markings on them, they must be the black dragon bandits, who once rampaged across the celestial Windsea region. But it looks like only 4 of them made it here this time. Those 4 are all at the peak of the 9th Nirvana stage. If they join forces, they can even hold their own against someone at the half-step life mystique stage. Lin Dong's gaze shifted again. Sure enough, he saw a group of people in red clothing in the distance, all marked with black dragon symbols. Leading them were 4 fierce-looking men, a thick killing intent radiating from their bodies. Clearly, they had many lives on their hands. It seemed that the vital, profound spirit fruit had attracted quite a few dangerous individuals. The upcoming struggle would indeed be interesting. The poisonous miasma surrounding Xuanling Mountain means we'll have to wait until noon to enter. Once inside, the contest for the vital profound spirit fruit will officially begin, Gu Yin said seriously, her gaze on the towering mountain. Lin Dong nodded slightly and, without saying more, stepped aside to check on little Yu's injuries, then quietly waited for the time to arrive. Despite the large crowd gathered at the base of the mountain, everything was unusually quiet. But as time passed, the gazes directed at Xuanling Mountain grew increasingly heated. Under the intense sunlight, the poisonous miasma enveloping Xuanling Mountain began to rapidly dissipate. Boom! The moment the miasma completely dispersed, the once quiet mountainside erupted into chaos. The sound of air being torn apart filled the sky as figures shot forward like locusts, rushing into the vast mountain. The battle for the vital, profound spirit fruit had begun. In the forest, still faintly veiled by a thin layer of poisonous mist, the sound of rushing wind suddenly echoed as figures darted through the air, swiftly heading toward the towering peak. There's quite a crowd, Lin Dong, his feet lightly touching a thick tree trunk, frowned slightly as he watched the people swarming into Xuanling Mountain. With so many entering at once, it was sure to stir up the demonic beasts within. There's nothing we can do. The lure of the vital profound spirit fruit is too strong, especially for those at the 9th nirvana stage. If they can obtain it, they'll save countless years of arduous cultivation, Gu Yin explained. The Gu clan had sent a sizable group to the mountainside, but not all of them entered. The area was too dangerous, and those without sufficient strength would be more of a burden. Thus, Gu Yin had only brought a dozen or so strong disciples of the Gu clan to follow Lin Dong. The number of demonic beasts in Xuanling Mountain is considerable. According to the information we gathered, there are at least 8 beasts at the half-step life mystique stage, and guarding the summit is a 3-headed demonic flood dragon at minor completion of the life mystique stage, Gu Yin said, her expression serious as she gazed toward the depths of the mountain. 8 beasts at the half-step life mystique stage, and a demonic flood dragon at minor completion. Lin Dong's eyes narrowed. The strength of the demonic beasts in Xuanling Mountain was truly daunting. If it weren't for the large number of powerful individuals drawn here, their group alone wouldn't stand a chance of obtaining the vital, profound spirit fruit. Those 8 half-step life mystique stage beasts guard different areas of Xuanling Mountain. Let's hope we don't run into them, or it will be a real headache, Gu Yin added. Even as she spoke, sounds of beasts roaring and the screams of the injured could already be heard in the distance. It seemed the demonic beasts of Xuanling Mountain had begun their attacks. Let's go. Gu Yin furrowed her brow slightly at the sounds, but wasted no time. With a wave of her hand, she shot forward, and Lin Dong and the others quickly followed. As the large group barged into Xuanling Mountain, the once peaceful mountain was instantly thrown into chaos. Roars of enraged beasts echoed through the air, and soon, the sounds of energy clashes followed. A faint scent of blood began to spread through the vast mountain. Lin Dong's group encountered several demonic beasts along the way. Though the beasts attacked, their formidable team handled the attacks without much difficulty, suffering only minor delays in their progress. Suddenly, a massive ape-like demonic beast roared and descended from the sky. Its sharp claws slashed down at a Gu clan disciple who had just defeated another beast. Bang! But before the attack could land, a fierce azure light swept through the air. The young Gu clan member who had been rescued breathed a sigh of relief as the demonic ape was sent flying. He glanced gratefully at Lin Dong, who had intervened to save him. Lin Dong surveyed the area. The group of demonic beasts that had ambushed them was now completely dealt with. To the east, another group was also under attack by a similar beast horde, but they were clearly having a much harder time, with screams occasionally piercing the air. Let's go, Lin Dong commanded. Although the others seemed to be struggling, Lin Dong had no intention of lending a hand. Now wasn't the time for heroics. Everyone here was a competitor, and who knew when those same people might turn against them? Wasting time to help potential enemies would be incredibly foolish. Hearing Lin Dong's low command, Gu Yin and the others nodded in agreement. Without delay, they moved swiftly, leaving the poisonous mist of the forest behind. As they exited the forest, the scorching sunlight immediately poured down from the sky, evaporating the poisonous mist clinging to their bodies. The warmth of the sun on their skin was a welcome relief after the intense battle, and the Gu clan members visibly relaxed. However, just as they were letting their guard down, Lin Dong's sharp warning echoed like thunder in their ears. "Watch out!" Bang! 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 No sooner had Lin Dong's shout fallen than the ground began to tremble violently. Razor-sharp stone pillars, gleaming dangerously at their tips, suddenly tore through the earth and shot toward the Gu clan members with terrifying speed. From his vantage point in the air, Lin Dong's expression hardened at the sudden ambush. With a swift punch, a sheet of azure light radiated from his fist, smashing down onto the sharp stone pillars below. Crack! Crack! As the light collided with the pillars, they shattered instantly, splitting into countless fragments before exploding into a fine dust that scattered across the ground. Seeing the stone pillars crumble, the Gu clan members landed back on the ground, their hearts still racing in fear. Their eyes, filled with admiration, turned to Lin Dong in the sky. His quick reactions had saved them. "Thank you," Gu Jian said, breathing a sigh of relief. With her strength, she could have dodged the attack, but there hadn't been enough time to save the others. Lin Dong shook his head, his gaze already fixed on something ahead. His brow furrowed as he muttered, "It seems our luck isn't great." Following his line of sight, Gu Jian also looked forward, only to see a massive, stone-covered beast glaring menacingly at them from a distance. The creature stood several dozen feet tall, exuding an aura of danger. "It's a stone demon beast, one of the 8 half-step life mystique stage beasts of Xuanling Mountain," Gu Jian remarked, her hand tightening into a fist, a trace of concern appearing on her face. "Should we work together and take it down quickly?" Gu Jian turned to Lin Dong. Time was of the essence. If they were delayed here, others might reach the depths of Xuanling Mountain first and claim the vital, profound spirit fruit. "Agreed," Lin Dong said, knowing time was precious. Just as he was about to nod in agreement, his expression darkened, and his gaze shot toward the northwest, where deep, savage beast roars could be heard. "Stay alert," Gu Jian warned, having sensed the disturbance as well. Boom, boom. Before her voice had even faded, massive trees in the distant forest began to topple over. 2 enormous, ferocious beasts emerged, their presence overwhelming. They had now entered Lin Dong and his group's line of sight. The expressions of the Gu clan members turned grim as they recognized the beasts. Both were at the half-step life mystique stage as well. "Damn it! It's the Black Dragon Bandits. They've deliberately lured these beasts here," one sharp-eyed Gu clan member shouted, spotting 2 figures swiftly retreating in front of the beasts, heading straight toward them. Gu Jian's face instantly turned icy, and beside her, Lin Dong's brow furrowed. These bandits were cunning, using such underhanded tactics to slow them down. "Haha, with the mighty Gu clan here, dealing with 3 half-step life mystique stage beasts should be no problem. We'll leave them to you." A man with a hideous scar across his face laughed wildly at Lin Dong's group. His gaze then turned cold as he flicked his sleeve, sending a jade bottle filled with crimson liquid flying toward the Gu clan members. The bottle exploded above them, raining the liquid down on those who couldn't dodge in time. Immediately, a pungent, bloody stench filled the air. Roar! As the scent spread, the 3 already bloodthirsty beasts' eyes grew even more savage, their crimson pupils becoming even more feral. "Haha, enjoy your meal, beasts. As for the vital, profound spirit fruit, it belongs to the Black Dragon Bandits." The 2 Black Dragon Bandit leaders cackled as they withdrew, leaving the 3 beasts to slowly close in on the Gu clan members. "What should we do? If these 3 beasts trap us?" Gu Jian bit her lip in frustration.